Blog Talk Radio.
Here we go with the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, Clemson fans joining us around the world. It's time for the Matthew Ball we're waiting for. Finally, it is showtime.
Here, man, we dedicate our life to this sport. We do thousands of sit-ups in camp. We run hundreds of miles, for the ones that take it serious. And we just dedicate ourselves fully to our craft, man. We watch tape. We have attitude. We're rooting, and we go into that fight to land on the line.
College football fans, the College Ball Show is back, and I had my microphone on mute. I just realized that, and that is a no-no. Anyway, college football fans, what's going on? The College Ball Show returns. I'm Chris. He's Marshall, and we're here to discuss everything surrounding the world of college football. Obviously, we had an interesting week one. On paper, we only had one ranked versus ranked. It really didn't matter, man. We had a variety of upsets. The two, I guess you could say, marquee matchups definitely lived up to them. Especially, the Auburn. I kind of think the Boise State, Florida State kind of was like a marquee matchup. It wasn't ranked versus ranked, no, but we just kind of assumed whoever was going to win that was going to be ranked. You know what I mean? That was a really good game, 18-point comeback on that. So there's a variety of games that we're going to get into. Some of the games like the BYU-Utah game, 30-12, but that game was much, closer than the final score will tell you. So there's a variety of games that we'll definitely get down. We'll break them all down as far as week one. And a couple of themes that kind of caught my eye. I mean, not just redshirt freshman quarterback, right? But freshman quarterback starting, true freshman. If you're a redshirt freshman, a lot of times if you're a stud quarterback, you may have already two springs. Let's say you early enrolled, you come in, even before your actual freshman year, you'll already have a spring. You already have the strength and conditioning. And by the time you're a redshirt freshman, you're already going to have two springs in. So that's a little bit different. You've had a year to get stronger, to know the playbook. But we're starting to see more and more of those true freshmen starting and doing really well. Obviously, Bo Nix, I think is his name, from Auburn. He's a Auburn kid through and through. I guess he was a ball boy because, his pops worked there back in the day. He had a rough evening, but he made up for it, no doubt about it. So, yeah, there's a variety of things that we're going to talk about. Obviously, we are going to break down some of these matchups coming for week two, whether they're the marquee matchups. We do have two ranked versus ranked, whether there's some games flying under the radar. Obviously, me and my co-host love to talk the betting line, so we will talk plenty of that. That's just some kind of weird noise that just popped up. We're okay, though. Everything's fine. So, yeah, we're going to break it all down, no doubt about it. Of course, we have the crafty pick of the week where my co-host just throws a game at me, and I just pick it off the cuff, okay? So we're going to get into this in just a moment. If this is your first time listening to the College Ball Show, it streams live right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. Streams live, it archives. It's basically like the headquarters. But you can find the College Ball Show under that Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Player FM, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spreaker. You can actually use Siri or Alexa through TuneIn or Spotify to find us there. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network, which can be found all over the all over the place, including Spotify and iHeartRadio. Head on over to thegruelingtruth.net. That's thegruelingtruth.net. It's football, basketball, boxing, baseball, everything in between. Right now, they got a great sponsor over there, betdsi.eu. That's betdsi.eu. And they have a promo code TGT. And one more thing, if you're thinking about cutting the cord, or maybe you already have and you're not happy with what you got, try AT&T Now. It's not DirecTV Now, but it's very similar, okay? That's what the company's called now, AT&T Now. 7-day free trial, but the plans start as low as $50. They do include HBO. You can stream it anywhere. No annual contract. And like I said, there's a 7-day free trial. So let's start to sink our teeth into some of the stuff that happened over the weekend. You know, I remember, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Marshall here. What's going on, Marshall? How the hell are you, man?
I'm having a good day. I just made a ton of money on a Serena Williams tennis match, so I'm financially doing really well right now. So hey, it's let's go. Now, who didn't copy
not a bad
money was those bastards from Florida State. It's easier to talk about it now because I almost made up the difference of what's happened, but we'll get there. But just hit a bet, so I'm in a good mood to do the show. Another nice day in Texas, and I'm excited for a week two, and we got a little more of bigger matchups this weekend coming up too, Chris.
Yeah, you're right. It does. Even though it paid off, you're right. It is a little bit, just a little bit more juicier type matchups. Even like number 23 Stanford against USC, or number 21 Syracuse is actually the underdog on the road at Maryland. Minnesota is on the road as the favorite against Fresno State, who hung right there with USC last week. So there is a variety of interesting matchups. As we kind of make our way through, we'll talk about the marquees first. Just going to kind of slide through some of this. Utah, as I mentioned, 130-12 over BYU, kind of a hard-fought type game there. I thought South Florida would actually hang with Wisconsin for a little bit, then get beat. I was wrong, 49-0. Alabama covered that 38-35 point spread. I think it was 35, 42-3. Ohio State kind of went back and forth scoring wise with FAU. They won 45-21. Most people took care of business that needed to. Penn State threw up 79 points. That was a whole lot of points for that. Remember when we were talking about non-conference early Iowa against Iowa matchups? Well, good golly. Iowa State almost went down in triple overtime. It took them 29-26. They did get the job done, but it definitely wasn't easy. Stanford and Northwestern was a grinded-out game, basically how we kind of called it. Stanford got it done 17-7. Oklahoma and Houston score fest, no surprise there, 49-31. Welcome to Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts. Jesus criminy. Louisville had a hot start, was playing really well, and then they just started fumbling everything. And I think there was 3 fumbles in a row, back to back on both sides. Notre Dame pulled the game out 35-17 late last night. Good game, though. It was an interesting game, no doubt about it. But let's start at the marquee matchup, Oregon and Auburn. Right now, Oregon got off to a really fast start. Like I said, Nix, the true freshman, Bo Nix, he was having a rough one. Let's put it that way. I mean, when you look at his numbers, 13 of 31 with 2 picks. Now, he did make up for it, like I said. But, coming in there, Herbert was the guy, and, this, that, and the third, and he's the Heisman guy. They were up pretty early, 14-3, and just slowly but surely, it was 21-6, 9 minutes into the third quarter. And like I said, slowly but surely, Auburn got back into it, 21-13, then 21-20, and they ended up getting the job done with 9 seconds left on the clock. This was a really good game. I really felt pretty strong about how Oregon started that game. When I'm watching, I'm like, wow, dude, they're really starting out really well. they're probably going to win this game. It just kind of felt that way. And like I said, Nix couldn't really do much. He was struggling majorly, but then that potent offense kind of just slowly but surely fell apart. And Oregon, who's usually known for the run game, they only put up 90 yards rushing. And Auburn, the one thing we said, their offense is really herky-jerky these last couple of years. We don't know what the hell's going on, why they can't just put up the points, but we know they can defend, and we know they can run the ball. And they ran the ball 43 times, 206 at a 4.8 clip. Like I said, there were some turnovers in there as well. What'd you think of this game, man? It really looked like Oregon. It was like, I don't know, like 6 to 8 to 10 years ago when they were just a juggernaut.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a similarity again, too, as I mentioned earlier, to the Florida State game. And I say that because the Boise State quarterback was a true freshman, and his second half was better. And I think you can kind of say the same thing for the Auburn kid in Nix. Like, there's kind of like an oh shit factor that you probably take on as making your first start as a quarterback. Now, not that he was exactly lighting up the scoreboard with great stats, but in the second half, Auburn outscored Oregon 21-7. And there had to be some part of comfortableness, or maybe he got the butterflies out or something, that all of a sudden the kid made a couple of passes or a couple of plays. You got a little bit of a rhythm. He put a couple of touchdown passes on the board. So I think sometimes, as much as we love these ranked teams, when you have kids who are freshmen playing quarterback, like that's, it's a big deal. And I think so maybe because Malzahn's calling plays this year, maybe a little bit of chemistry there. Something started to click a little bit. And you kind of stole the stats away from me. I was just going to say was, Oregon ran the ball 33 times for 90 yards. That's not impressive really at all for college football. Maybe for NFL if you're playing against a good defense, but Auburn doubled them in rushing yards. And in a sense, that makes a lot of sense, Chris, because you're helping out the quarterback. Okay, Nix was 13 of 31. All right, fresh kid. But what's the way to help out your quarterback? Well, run the hell out of the ball. You got 43 carries, 4.8 yards. That's they averaged 4.8 yards per run. Oregon averaged 2.7. I mean, that alone's a nice advantage right there. So maybe the comfortability, getting used to it, a big game, stepping up, making plays. Obviously, the touchdown pass at the very end was huge. That's not a play that every quarterback can make. So overall, maybe just some maturity, halftime adjustments, and a nice comeback win by Oregon for having a pretty flat first half. They're able to pull it together at the end. And it's tough for the Ducks now because you could argue both these teams felt like they had a chance for a Final Four spot, potentially, maybe as a fan base. But when you play a ranked team to start off the year right away, it's a cool thing for a fan base. But on the other hand, whichever team loses now, you've dug in yourself a really big hole if you truly had aspirations for making a deep run. And, I'm not saying that Oregon or Auburn necessarily are going to be a Final Four team, but as fun as these big matchups are, so many other big teams this week, Chris, scheduled powder puff games, and now you're 1-0, you get your feet wet, and you're kind of figuring out your system. This game, it's like, you don't got time to get your feet wet. Here we go. Oh, crap, we already got a loss. Now we almost have to run the table as a team, and that's kind of extra pressure on your squad if you want to be a postseason contender.
Yeah, that's true. It's well said. Obviously it helps non-conference, the Pac-12. They've had their issues. Let's not go college basketball on the thing here. It's not that bad in the Pac-12 by any stretch of the imagination, but there's this stat here that I'm trying to find, and it's like of something pretty high, and it's since 2008. Yeah, the Ducks are up, what was it, 21-6 or 4 in the third quarter, but where the hell is that stat? I had a stat. I'll find it. Oh, here we go. Oh, no. Well, this is actually bad, too. Look, I just ran into the bad stuff for Pac-12. The Pac-12 has lost 5 consecutive games to the American Conference, 5 of the past 6 against the Mountain West, which is kind of bad. But since 2008, the Pac-12 non-conference wise regular season, not bowl, is like 0-16 or some shit. It's really bad. For some reason I can't find the stat, but it's not a good look whatsoever. So yeah, there's that. But you're right, man. Sometimes that early stuff it can springboard you, but it can also just mess you up. And while we're at it, right there, because like I said, it kind of felt like a marquee game. Boise State, Florida State. I mean, they were down 18 points. They were down, and they came back 36-31. There was a ball right like loose on the ground, and you saw 3 or 4 Seminoles in the area, right? I remember there's a still shot on Twitter that says, imagine Florida State not being able to recover this ball. And there's like 4 Florida State dudes around it, and somehow, some way, it didn't happen. And what is it, Bachenmeyer or something like that? Bachenmeyer?
Brockmeyer, yeah.
Bachmeyer. 407, 51 attempts, and they ran the ball for, Mahoney, who's coming on strong here this year as well. He went for 24 and 142. They stayed with the run. Obviously they were passing their ass off too, but it was well said from you, the fact that, the guy had a rough first half. They did get within range at the end, though, of the first half. It wasn't like out of range or anything like that, but 17-0 in the second half. And Florida State, they've let some 10, I think it's in the last 2 years, 6 10-point leads go to the wayside and lose. The Seminoles just don't know how to close, and Boise just has that system in there. New quarterback, new running back, no problem.
Yeah. I'm at a loss of words. And yes, I'm not a Florida State fan, but I do enjoy money. And I felt pretty good, Chris, in the first half because Florida State was moving the ball effortlessly. Now, I did realize very quickly into the game that Florida State's defense sucked because even though you'd mentioned that they were down early, Florida State was not stopping Boise. It was literally 7-yard run. And they would maybe get an occasional stop, but it wasn't like Florida State's defense was playing outrageous. They were simply Florida State was just not being stopped, when they were on offense. So as the game's going on, you figure, well, shit, if Florida State can slow down on offense, then Boise State might be back in the game. But to go a whole second half and not score at all, I'm not sure. And, and I guess we'll have a little bit of a Florida State rant here. But, this is a team that Jimbo leaves. They kind of had some drama last year trying to figure out your situation and kind of Willie Taggart's trying to get the team back on track. And you have an incredible first half at home, and they get a home game because of the hurricane. They were lucky to move the game for the home stadium, so that's even more of an advantage. And you play a beautiful first half, and then you come out, and I don't know if you took the foot off the pedal. Like, I can't imagine that Boise State made so many defensive adjustments that they became a lockdown defense, but something happened, and maybe you do have a sense of maybe taking your foot off the gas because you're up playing so big, but for a game that meant a lot to them, for a team that's trying to get their shit together, it's just kind of hard to fathom, and now you're kind of back to like, oh man, we had a bad year last year, and we do this for game one. And I saw today when I got home before we did our show, a lineman came out and said that they felt out of shape. I'll ask you.
Wow.
Combined, we probably
That's not good. Game one. This is when you should be in your best shape. Wow.
I was honestly thinking, like, you and I have probably watched football for combined probably close to 40 years, or we're in our 30s, so we've watched a lot of football. I've never once in my life seen a lineman say we were out of shape, and that didn't help us. Like, I get that when you get to college and pro sports, sometimes a coach expects you to condition yourself in a sense, because, you're not obviously going to be running suicides every day in college football like maybe do in high school or something like that. But for a lineman to say we were out of shape and, you're used to the climate, like Boise would have a little bit of a different issue with the weather, but that just blew my mind. And maybe, I guess I don't know what to say. And I'm at a loss for words, my friend, because I've never heard a person say that after a game. And I can tell by your instant reaction, you probably thought I was making that crap up, but yeah. So a tough loss, a bad gambling beat, and whatever Briles their new OC was calling the first half, I don't know if it disappeared or they lost focus, but holy crap, that's a bad loss. And if you're Boise, that's a nice, huge win to start off your year and build a ton of confidence for a true freshman, not even a redshirt, a true freshman kid.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And there is actually a stat here. So in the last 15 years, Florida State was coming in this game was 80-1, went up by 18 points. They're now 80-2. So that's wow, dude. That's a doozy. I can't believe he said that. That's crazy. By the way, that Bo Nix, first true freshman to start a season opener at QB at Auburn since 1946, dude. Wow, he really that's a way to start the game too, like to start your whole season. It's just like, whoa, hey, all right, here I am. But yeah, man, I don't know what's going on at Florida State. I mean, Jimbo got out just in time. It did kind of feel like that something was going to pop off, kind of like Oklahoma. Remember Oklahoma when what's-his-toes left, and we're all like, I wonder if something's about to pop off. Like, are they?
Yeah.
Is there going to be some sort of like violation coming down the pipe? And as of right now, there hasn't been. But I don't know, man. I know there's a lot of money. I do know there's a lot of money on the line, but it's for A&M, for Jimbo to go. But yeah, dude, their offensive line is just garbage. And then the one thing we know they had was defense, and like you said, that was getting chunked up. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's a rough one, dude. I mean, how do you have Blackman was 14 of 17, 276, and 3 touchdowns in the first, 7 of 14 for 36 in the second. I mean, it'd be one thing if you just had a huge lead and you're just running the ball, not doing that type of thing. But that was not the case. A couple other true freshmen to talk about. Daniels. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just one last thing. Another thing that blows my mind, and that I don't get, is that that Akers Florida State running back is like a legit powerhouse. And every time I watch them, I kind of wonder, like, in my opinion, you have a premier college football running back. Why don't you use him more?
Definitely.
Especially in college football. If we've learned anything, Chris, to some extent, if you can run the ball and work down the clock, that's a beautiful thing to have. And every time I watch that kid play, he does something special. And so I'm texting my buddies this, near the end of the game. I'm like, man, how don't you utilize Akers? But then the moron play caller, with 2 minutes left on the 2-minute drive to try to win the game, they call a couple of dives up the middle with a running clock trying to, win. But anyways, as a Hurricane fan, I know you're shedding no tears. It is a good game to talk about for our podcast, but it's mind-blowing to figure out what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the third year now with the offensive line issues. It's one year, okay, no big deal. Maybe you got a bunch of injuries, whatever. But I mean, it's crazy, dude. Anyway, true freshman-wise, Arizona State has a true freshman, Jaden Daniels. He played pretty damn good, 284 and 3 touchdowns. And Sam Howell played pretty good, too, for a true freshman. They ended up, I think South Carolina was like a clean favorite, like a 6 or 8 point favorite on the road, too. I kind of looked at that one, and I was going to chime in on it, but I ended up not doing it. But those are some more true freshmen, that came through in the clutch. We did have, speaking about coming through in the clutch, Marshall, this frickin' kicker from, I think, what was it, Nevada, right? Was it Nevada? Yeah, Nevada. Beat Purdue with a 56-yard walk-off field goal, and after the game, he got put on scholarship. It's like, hey, dude,
I didn't.
you know,
that's awesome.
Yeah, he got put on scholarship right after the game. Isn't that cool?
I didn't know that part. That's really cool. Good for him. Good for him.
Now, if he missed it, would they? Here's your fucking walking papers. Getting the fuck out of here. I mean, dude, that's planned already. You know what I mean? It just seems a little weird.
I've noticed it's become more of a thing now for like these college football coaches kind of make it a big ordeal. Obviously, in college football, you're only limited so many scholarships, especially for maybe a freshman kicker, maybe the kid's a walk-on. But they've become kind of more fun ways. I know that PJ Fleck for the Gophers, I remember last year he had a video go viral of him having like a team meeting, and they all of a sudden dropped the news that this kid made the roster. And it's not normally around the whole team, so it's kind of a cool celebration. But, man, at least that kid's got, at least for this year, a spot. As we've learned with kickers, this kid could be gone next year. You never know. But, yeah, to drill a walk-off kick, and they were an 11 to 12-point underdog to a Purdue team who's normally pretty highly respected just because they're not like a serious contender, but they have a coach everyone loves.
Yeah, but they're on the up and up.
Yeah, and arguably the best receiver in college football, or one of the best, who had, like, as a freshman, Rondale Moore had almost 1,200 receiving yards. Like, Nevada wasn't supposed to win that game. I know it was at Nevada, but that's a good win, and good for that kid. And that was, I think, from what I saw, probably the only walk-off kick. I'm sure there's maybe another one, but that was maybe one of the coolest endings of the game we saw all week with a huge field goal.
Yeah, 56 yards, man. Man, we can't even get the fucking Vikings kickers to hit 40 yards, let alone fucking 56 to win the game. Two, not one, but two phones. No, I'm sorry. Penn State and Maryland both went over 70. It's the first time, the third time two Big Ten teams scored 70-plus in the same day. Third time in AP poll history. That started in like 1930-something. So they definitely put up some points. Speaking of putting up points, Georgia State put up some freaking points on Tennessee, 38-30. The Vols had won 31 straight when you're favored by 15. 15 plus. I think they were favored by 18 or something like that. Man, almighty. Tennessee. I mean, what in the hell, dude? Tennessee just can't get out of their own way. 2-3 years ago, it kind of felt like they were starting to go positive. Nope, they're back to shitty. It's pretty crazy, man. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But that was a huge upset. That was probably one of the biggest upsets of the day. That was pretty crazy.
I think it's kind of in the same conversation of Florida State. Like, what is going on? Now, I get that Tennessee's maybe had a little bit of a different situation because they maybe struggled to find the best coach. Obviously, my boy Kiffin was there for like a year, and since then it seems like they only have a coach for every 2 to 3 years when someone new comes in. And so you could argue that the AD maybe could do a better job of hiring a coach, but they've been a program, too, where, I would say their fan base is probably pretty proud, like Florida State's. They maybe don't quite get the national publicity, but shit, I mean, Peyton Manning, Jamal Lewis, like, when we were, like, in high school and college, like, Tennessee was a pretty legit contender. Every year was them or Florida. And they've kind of been in a spiral, like Florida State, Chris, for the past 4 to 5 years. It's like, man, what is going on in our program? Like, what is happening? Because we're supposed to be pretty good. And they've been probably a bottom 4 SEC team now for the past 5 or 6 years. And this obviously is not a good way to start the season off either. Again, Florida State, Tennessee, you're thinking, okay, optimistic this year, have faith as a fan. And Florida State has that loss, and Tennessee loses to an FCS team who I know is a decent one, but,
But
geez.
still.
Yeah, at home, I believe, too. So I saw some things on Twitter, like Tennessee paid Georgia Southern $900,000 to come and get a win.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah. But
I saw this thing online that it was a Florida fan, And they're like, I just got back from the future. Tennessee's still rebuilding, like, shit, dude. The worst loss by an SEC team favored by 25 points in the last 40 years. Is that good or no? Is that a bad stat? I think that's a bad stat. That doesn't seem favorable. Wow, man. Unbelievable. And Clemson just doing what Clemson does, 52-14 Georgia Tech, 11 straight 20-point wins, second longest streak in AP poll history. That was kind of an interesting here's another streak that fell. The Utah kicker, he missed a point after. He had hit 183 in a row. It's the third longest active streak. That one is gone. Just a couple of fun stats for you. Most of them are negative, I guess. I didn't realize how many negative ones I had. Tua, we know they dominated. 4 touchdowns. It's the 7th game that he had 4 touchdowns. That ties a record as well. Man almighty. Okay, let's start getting into a couple other of these games before, we start to look to next week and look at Clemson and Texas A&M, LSU, Texas, Stanford, USC, Syracuse, Maryland. Interesting game that I'm worried about, Minnesota and Fresno State. Variety of games that we're definitely going to break down and kind of tell you, hey, you might want to keep an eye on this or talk point spread betting. We always talk a whole lot of point spread. My squad, let's go to the home squads that we cheer for here. Minnesota, I knew they were going to be in a tough game. When it was 21-7, they had a chance against South Dakota State, who got beat by North Dakota State in the semis last year. So they're a pretty good team as far as that goes. But they had a chance to start putting this game away, and they didn't. And when you leave a team like that around, they're going to be dangerous, and that's exactly what it was. Minnesota did get through it 28-21, but it was close, and this Bateman made a great one-handed grab in the end zone. It was like a 60-yard bomb, and our quarterback overthrew him. And right when I saw the ball placement, I was like, are you kidding me? I was so pissed off. But, Bateman caught it. And Bateman, he's a true sophomore, had a really good freshman year. He's a guy from Alabama. That Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, everybody wanted him. And our guy, P.J. Fleck, got it. Great catch, though. Great catch. So that's something that, it was one of those you could tell they weren't opening up the playbook until they had to at the end. So that was a little shaky. I figured it'd be tight. I didn't know it'd be that tight. Another game that I actually called wrong, I thought Utah State, who had a really good year last year, I thought could win on the road at Wake. They were just a little bit underdog, like 4-point underdog. They lost 38-35. Somehow Vegas is normally right. So maybe every once in a while you got to listen to Vegas. And Iowa State just grinding that out. Almost a shocker, Marshall. 29-26, like I mentioned earlier. We could talk about a variety of these games that I'm speaking of if you have anything to add to it. But I also want to talk about Fresno and USC since your USC squad got a win 31-23. However, they took a major blow at the quarterback position.
Yeah. Well, I'll touch on a few other teams that don't pertain to me quickly. If you were at all a Alabama fan and was scared about your team after the first half where it's kind of slow, in the second half, Tua and Bama got going. It was a little bit surprising. I think it was like 14-6 or 14-3 versus Duke at half. You're like, man, Bama maybe struggling. In the second half, Bama found what they do, and they made it look pretty good. And they won a bet for me, so I'm a little more happy with them than Florida State. But so Bama took care of business. Georgia easily beat Vandy. And now, Chris, the sad news about the teams I gladly support. Florida Atlantic, my boy Lane Kiffin lost to Ohio State. I expected that. It wasn't a complete beatdown. Missouri was a 17-point favorite, who a lot of people thought were going to start the year 7-0 and walk into Georgia undefeated. Lost their first game of the year to Wyoming as a 17-point road favorite. So that was beautiful. And then USC wins a game which they should have won because Fresno State's down this year due to the skill they used to have. And it took USC. They made some nice flashy plays, had some long touchdowns. A good start to the year for Clay Helton, who needs a good season, or he'll probably will be no longer working at USC. And then you hear your quarterback tore his ACL. For a team who's supposed to have a high-flying offense this year, great core wide receivers, obviously a great mind in the OC. Like, everything was kind of at least up to a decent start. And then you get a massive injury. So, it wasn't a good weekend for the boys I support. I'm happy your Gophers got a W. Pretty or not, it really doesn't matter at this point. Again, I would have taken a Missouri 1-point win over Wyoming. I don't think there's an excuse when you're a 17-point favorite against a trash team. But, yeah, it was a little bit of a rougher week for me, my friend. So at least your Gophers are carrying the weight for the teams we support as of now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Miami lost too. Yeah, that was a rough first week in general.
We were 2-3.
Who would have thought? Yeah, who would have thought all that? Yeah, Minnesota came through. Who? Oh, yeah, shit, what the hell? I don't call the other podcast Living in Loserville for nothing. Wow, that's pretty good. And, I'll tell you this. Years ago, as a Gopher fan, I know for sure we would have lost that game by a field goal at the buzzer or something like that. So it is good to get over the hump, even though, we ran one play like 28 times. That type of thing. We were really hiding hiding our game plan, but for upcoming games. But at some point, you'll be like, all right, dude, it's time to fucking win this game, though. And when they did, Virginia Tech, who a lot of people were starting to look at in that ACC Coastal, went down swinging 35-28 at BC. Virginia Tech was a 4.5-point favorite, if I remember correctly. So that was a really tight game. Kind of, lived up to that hardcore barn burner that I put it under last week. Any more games that you'd like to talk about before we get into some of these real deal games we got coming up for week 2?
The only thing I'd add on that you'd mentioned earlier, that Northern Iowa State, I wouldn't say that's an awful loss for Iowa, a sad win for Iowa State, just simply because Northern Iowa is one of those FCS schools that always gets a ton of JUCO kids and is always pretty loaded for their standard. They're not like North Dakota State has been on a run, but Northern Iowa is not a bad team. Now, obviously, they're not a legit threat, like I said, but they normally always get a bunch of athletes, so obviously, Iowa State needs to win that game. You want to hold on to your ranking. But for that game, there's probably a lot of kids who know each other. So if you're an Iowa State fan or if you want to bet the team, that wasn't the ugliest win they've ever had, just because that's probably a more even game than people thought. And, besides that, brother, I was kind of hoping Nebraska was going to lose. That's to wrap this up. I saw that them and Southern Alabama were super close. And,
yeah, they were.
Yeah, and so if you're Nebraska, now you got to go to Colorado. I feel Nebraska has gotten a lot of hype to start off the season. I know that now that there's they've legalized sports gambling in Iowa, the amount of money laid down for Nebraska to win the national championship is in the six figures, I believe, of bets, which is preposterous.
Jesus, right?
Like,
that makes sense, though. But wow.
I
might have
loaded
to jump
up.
down to Iowa, figure this shit out.
So Vegas, or at least Iowa Vegas, does not want Nebraska to win the title this year. It's going to be a bad first year for the books.
Las Des Moines, Las Vegas.
Exactly.
I heard that there's a rule that you can't bet on an Iowa team in Iowa. Like, that's part of the
oh, really?
What passed?
Oh.
Yeah, what passed in the bill.
Huh.
And I wonder if more states, and maybe even some of the quote unquote conservative states, I wonder if maybe that's how they're going to do it. To be like, yeah, see, we're going to safeguard, but you can't. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's a fact. I heard it from two people now.
Huh. Because I
know in Jersey you can bet on Jersey, like there's nothing. Yeah, like
sure.
I know other states, it's just straight up. So that's kind of interesting. I was wondering if you had heard that too, but yeah, I heard it from a couple people now. So.
You know, in Vegas, I bet on the Aces, or not the Aces, I'm thinking WNBA. I bet on like the Golden Knight hockey team, or New Jersey. I've never heard any state that has mentioned you can't bet on a local team, but hell, I would gladly bring in sport betting in Texas. If I can't bet on the Longhorns, that's fine. I would just want it to happen. And
exactly.
By the way,
that's totally
to summarize, yeah, I think Chris would survive not being able to bet the Gophers if he had to have sports books.
It's probably saved 4 years of my life, for Christ's sakes.
we gave you one on a platter. Okay, week 1, the crafty pick of the week. I was telling people, how in God's name is Rutgers a 14-point favorite when this is a team that normally back-to-back years loses games by 80 points combined when they have to play Ohio State, Michigan State back-to-back. It's normally 80-7 in that 2-week span. And I saw they were a 14-point favorite, and I was like, well, holy God, UMass must be that awful. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights just walked on water and won 48-21 week 1. They had 31 points in the second quarter. Apparently UMass had to do a little bit of work. The season was looking pretty bad for UMass, but for one night, Rutgers can be proud because Big Ten season starts soon, and they sadly have to play Michigan, Ohio State, and Michigan State and all those teams. But for now, the Rutgers Knights are hot, and Chris has won on the year. And if you went to the window, you easily cashed your ticket because they won by a lot more than 14. A 48-21 victory for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and the boys are off and running for the crafty pick of the week, which we'll get to later in the show.
That's right. Take it to the window. Take it right to the window. And the shitty thing is I'm going to have to fucking try to pick. I may be picking that team that looks horrible. In a couple of weeks, I may have to pick that same team I just picked against. So I don't want to degrade them too much because I may have to, I may have to go with them. I may have to go with them in a matchup. So you never know. So on to this week. Number 1, Clemson versus number 12, Texas A&M. I just brought up that stat, right? That stat, 20-plus wins in a row. What was it, 13? I don't remember how many. A lot of them for Clemson. Well, here we are, Marshall. 17.5-point spread. The over-under is 65. 17.5. Now, I think Clemson's going to win. Remember last year, it was a tight-ass game. 17.5. Are they – all right, what's going on? Should we look at this thing and think the Aggies can sneak under that 17.5?
It's a lot of points, man. I'm with you. That spread seems a little bit high, and I'm also with you where I don't think that there's going to be a massive upset, which it would be. It'd be a hell of an upset if A&M can pull this off. But that points spread does seem pretty high. The one thing you got to fear, obviously, is it's a road game. So Clemson's got the home edge this year. Last year, A&M gave them all they could handle. And I know Clemson didn't look, I guess, super impressive in some people's minds against Georgia Tech. But the one fear is that Kellen Mond for A&M is not always the most accurate passer. He's more of an athletic runner type. And obviously A&M killed Texas State, big deal. But are you going to be able to use your athletic mobility at Clemson and maybe not so much rely on your arm? He's always – I remember it feels like the guy's been there for 5 years, but I've seen him play quite a bit. And Mond's like a super athletic guy, but he normally always scrambles and tries to make special plays. I think that's just asking so much, Chris, to do that against a Clemson defense at home. Maybe that's explaining why the spread's high as it is. And then obviously A&M's defense. Last year you played hell, they didn't even play against Trevor Lawrence because he wasn't even involved yet. So now you got to find a way to slow down one of the most up-and-coming hot quarterbacks in the country. I get the favorite part. Maybe the home field advantage adds more. Maybe the A&M quarterback not being a Manziel type that will lead to a Bama upset is something, but I'm with you. It seems a little bit high, but again, how is A&M going to score with kind of an agile quarterback? Is he going to be able to move around on a Clemson defense that's normally always known for having a great D-line and a set of linebackers.
That's true, man. They usually eat those for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and breakfast. It's usually like, yeah, go ahead, man, no problem. Yeah, run. We'll see what happens. We'll get you in 3rd and 14, then we see what happens. A&M has been on a run. You hate to do the year-to-year, and oh my God, they closed so well, but they have they really closed well last year. They had that crazy 74-72 7 overtime game. Beat a really good NC State team, 52-13. They got their offense going last year just in the nick of time. We talked about this last week. Auburn's the same way. I mean, if they get 8 wins, it's a good year, though, because of their schedule. It's just ridiculous. But it'll definitely – we're both on the same page with Clemson winning the game outright. But, man, it's going to be in the back of my head all week, Marshall. I'm just going to be kind of gauging that thing, seeing what's happening to that line. I feel like it's going to at least come down a little bit. But if it makes, a sizable jump, I may even I don't know. It just seems a little wide, but they
sure.
won. I just read that stat, where they're the 3rd all time since the polls started, and that's in the 30s for the most 20-point wins in a row. So, who am I to say what's right and what's wrong in that one? All right, number 6 LSU and number 9 Texas. Okay. Big game here. 55 over-under, 55-point over-under. 5.5. LSU is a 5.5 favorite, 5.5-point favorite. And right now, Texas, their running back situation is just downright dreadful. It is scary, actually. Yeah, they got a running quarterback. He could pass and run, and sure, it's Texas, dude. They got some shit, right? But to run the ball, I'm saying. It's in Texas, over there in Royal Texas Memorial. This is a primetime game on ABC. 2 top 10 teams going head-to-head. But, Marshall, they got like 4 running backs out. They've been just moving guys over. They actually just now lost the guy, Jordan Whittington, 4 to 6 weeks with a groin. But they got like 4 dudes out. Like I said, they moved a linebacker, a young linebacker, over. Like, I get that guy, the Ellinger can obviously run the ball too, but you're going to want to run the ball against LSU. You're not just going to air it out against them. This, by the way, this is D-back U against D-back U. Texas already had some T-shirts on in warm-ups earlier this week, but I got to side with LSU right now, I'd say, for D-back U, defensive back U. But how is this one playing out here? It's at Texas, and you're there, right there in Texas. Although it's not, there's really no right there in Texas because you could drive 13 hours and be like, oh, we're still right there in fucking Texas. Jesus Christ. Don't you need some running backs to run, though, too? I mean, do you really want to wear down Ellinger in week 2? I don't think so. This is going to be interesting, man. This could be tough. And, Joe Burrow is coming back now, who at times started to look like he was turning the corner. We know LSU is always – that quarterback has been their missing link, and he looks pretty good. He's like a step up from serviceable. He had some breakout games last year. How do you see this one playing out? And is this running back thing gonna be kind of the downfall, maybe why they lose the game?
I think LSU is a better team. Going on the road makes things slightly more difficult, obviously. But I'm with you. If you want to live on your quarter, or if your game plan is to live off your quarterback throwing the ball, like you're asking for a lot of issues. Like LSU's probably got a pretty damn good defense this year. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that, Chris. I don't think we're breaking any news there. Their defense is probably pretty good. And if you can't run the ball against them and it's pin your ears back and like raise hell, like it's going to be a long day for Ellinger. and I know the whole media loves this kid, and he's got the good story about how he, grew up as a young man. He lost his father, and all. I mean, it seems to be an incredible person, which is awesome to hear. There's nothing against that, but this, he was not a great quarterback last year. Like, Texas had a good season, but this kid is not in your Trevor Lawrence or, Tua. He's not a premier quarterback. And I think I'll take the words back on if he can find a way to score against LSU, but he's now going to face a legit top-end defense. This isn't Oklahoma or a typical Big 12 defense. This is like maybe the best defense in the country or top 5, and you don't have a running back game, like that's going to be looking pretty dicey. And on the other side, the quarterback is a kid who last year we talked about him quite a bit, would have a game where he would have like 13 incompletions in a row, but that 14th one he'd hit, and it would be like a game-winning drive. Like I think that was the Georgia game, if our memory recalls.
I think you're right.
Burrows,
that does sound familiar.
Yeah, he had like 15 incompletions in a row, yet they beat Georgia. So he's just a scrappy kid, but I think he's worked on the offseason to get better, obviously become more accurate. But I'm just leaning LSU. Like I said, I think they're a better team, better offense, obviously a better defense. And obviously I'm not a huge Texas fan, so I'm a little bit biased there. I'm always kind of tired of hearing about UT, and my new softball coach is a huge fan. She actually went to college there. I told her today, I'm like, if I send a text message of a Tiger on Saturday, I don't want this to cost me my job. This is kind of friendly banter. This cannot apply to the workplace. But she's like, I'll be watching. I'm like, well, I might send a couple of messages. Don't take it personal. So I got a little bit of an agenda going too. But I just think LSU
as long as
wins.
you don't do the Brett Favre, you'll be okay.
So I think the boys I think LSU gets the job done. The point spread, I'd say it's pretty dead on. You're basically saying that on a neutral site, LSU's about a 7 to 8 point favorite, which sounds about fair. I just think they pull it off, and I'm just not going to pick Texas. I don't want to. I think LSU wins too. But if I was to bet the game, I would just bet LSU to win. So money line bet, I think they're minus 200, minus 220. Bet them to win the game, and just if they win by 1 point or 4 points, you worry you're good instead of them having to win by 6.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I wouldn't even mess with the spread. Just go right to LSU. I just think that, they do have a returning quarterback. Like we mentioned, he's not great, but he's improving. And I don't know, man. Just slanging around the yard with LSU. D-back you? I don't know. I'm going to go under, too, the 55. I'm going to go under 55, too.
Oh, wow, that's high. Jeez.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And you brought this news to me. Has it been just all injuries? Like, how the hell does your depth chart fall apart? I guess I didn't.
Yeah, it's been injuries.
That's
been injuries.
Wow.
Yep. Started in camp. I think one of them happened in the summer, like summer workouts or whatever. But and then one just happened in the last game. Yeah, it's 4 freaking guys, and one of them's like a stud that they brought in. They tried to even get there. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Like,
oh Lord,
I don't know. And you just figure it's Texas. Like they got 17 of them on there. But yeah, I mean it's just a weird situation. What a shitty timing to have to go against LSU of all teams. Like you can get by just slinging the thing around in the Big 12 for the most part. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like
yes,
you said, with defense. But fuck, dude, like that's the one team that you definitely want to run the ball and just, take a little pressure off your QB. Like you said, good. I mean, he really came on last year and did some special things and put up some really great running and passing. He's definitely a running and passing. He's not just a passing. And without that play action, without that real threat, I don't know, man. I see he's going to need to take an ice bath. Let's put it that way. We might as well get right to it, man. Stanford, big bully, big brother, number 23 Stanford, going against USC and a youngster at QB. It is at USC, if I remember correctly. It is back-to-back home games. Not a bad way to start. Can they just sneak this one out some way? I'm going Stanford. I don't see a spread on this one just yet. As far as on ESPN, now that I think there's no numbers on it at all. So, what do you think? I mean, obviously we have the number. Oh my goodness! Hold on, Marshall. Hold the phone. According to
don't
ESPN,
give me the damn
Football Power Index, the USC Trojans, your USC Trojans, are favored 61.6% to 38.4%.
Lord.
That's why Vegas isn't even putting up a spread. They're like, no way. Once that index speaks, we all listen.
Obviously I'm upset because I don't like my coach, lose our quarterback, and Stanford has owned us for the past 7 years. I have very little faith that we win this game. I remember I went to the Oklahoma football game last year with my friend, and I remember going back to his house. We're watching USC, and I just turned the game on against Stanford, and I forget the exact score, but it was just a murderous beatdown. That we've not been able to beat them for a very long time. It literally feels like 7 or 8 years. It's probably very close to that. I think we might have beat them once in that span, but they have our number. Obviously, another new quarterback is not beneficial. Stanford gets a win that a lot of people were kind of shaky about them on. They beat Northwestern. I know they were a favorite, but if you were to listen to people break down the game, a lot of people were like, Stanford was bad last year. They're going to pull it off, and they got a good win against Northwestern. They had momentum. We lose our momentum from losing our quarterback, and now we got a new young kid walking in again. So I feel awful about this game. I think we lose just because that's what we normally do against them. I hope that we pull out a win, but Chris, I believe the game did open up because I thought I saw it like on a late night a few days ago. I thought USC was -2.5, but obviously once you lose a quarterback, maybe you got to go off the board,
right,
reevaluate. It's not a huge drastic change like in the NFL losing a quarterback, but still, you can't just put up a line up there that the people could pound and make money off it. So I'm sure it'll be very close to a pick'em game or maybe Stanford -1, something to that effect. But I'm hoping for a win. I'll be watching. It really is a beautiful setup because you get to go the Clemson game, which takes you into the Clemson games, followed by the who's the other? Why am I drawing a blank?
Texas.
The other big game. Texas game,
and
then you get USC.
LSU.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, triple header.
Literally a triple header, which is awesome for football. So hopefully it'll lead off on a good note. But yeah, man, I'm taking Stanford, and and you mentioned you're doing the same. I can't blame you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I might take a look at that index and keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
So Syracuse doesn't have the same quarterback, right? They had a hell of a year last year. They are dogs to Maryland, who put up frickin' 79 on Howard, and I'm not talking about Dwight either. I'm talking about Howard Bison, wherever and whoever the hell that is. I'm sure. See, I talked this smack, but I'm going to have to pick him in like week 12. So Maryland's at home. Syracuse is ranked based off their coach, based off having a great year last year as far as that program. I'm not saying they won 12 games, but they had a great year. What do you think here? You think Maryland is just going to take care of business at home? They have this weird thing where Maryland's like a good week, bad week, good week, bad week. That kind of sums up Maryland in a nutshell in the last long-ass time. They come out and they look great, then all of a sudden they drop the ball. How do you see this one playing out? You think Syracuse is still kind of putting all the pieces together, and they're not as much as of an offensive juggernaut as they were last year, especially with that quarterback Dungy?
I think that with Maryland, Chris, it is kind of like breathing a breath of fresh air, like trying to move on from the awful incident of the kid who died of heat exhaustion. And, you lose the coaches and the coaching staff, which I think was the move you had to do. It's still hard to believe it. I know we're going back a little bit, but they lost their lineman due to heat exhaustion, but the kid had been like on the sidelines for like 50 minutes, and like because they'd been running sprints too hard, like a simple protocol of a trainer. Like they even tell us that in high school. It's like, hey, if kid overheats, find an ice bath. This poor young man was just chilling on the sidelines for like 40 to 50 minutes, and his life could have been saved. And they didn't follow protocol. And so obviously you had to get rid of the strength and conditioning guy. You got to lose the head coach and start over new. So I think it's just kind of maybe like a new beginning, try to get rid of that, because I know last year they finished on kind of a good note. You get Josh Jackson from Vatech, who was a quarterback up there. Now you have a stable quarterback who's played some big games, and you had a huge win week 1. I think it's kind of just continuing to try to build your way up. Obviously I can't break down the recruits and stuff because we don't follow them that well, but I think you're hopefully, trying to start off on a good note. Syracuse is obviously ranked, and like as you said, deserves it from last year, but they're normally a team that gets all their big wins at home. Their Clemson win a couple years ago was at home, so they're normally kind of playing in the Carrier Dome, kind of special magic. They're probably a different squad on the road compared to usual, and as you mentioned, you lose the Dungy kid. I'll lean towards Maryland. They're a 2-point favorites. That's Vegas basically saying, dude, it's a pick. I'm like, good luck,
Yeah.
But I think maybe just the momentum of a new start with a new coach and everything kind of rolling in the right direction sometimes could be enough to start the season off on the right foot. So I'll go with the Turtles. And shout out to Juan Dixon, who I used to love watching when they were in the ACC, and it was Carolina, them, and Duke. But Maryland's no longer in the ACC.
Shout out to Stevie Franchise, too. Shout out to Stevie Franchise.
Those were some fun days to watch when it was them and Carolina and Duke. But anyways, I'll take the Turtles, and a shout out to all the Maryland players.
Taking the
from
right.
15 years ago in basketball.
Shout out to Joe Smith. No, Terps, the Terpins. I was serving him in the home of the Terpins. All right, I'm gonna go the other side of it. I'm gonna say coaching is gonna do it. Like you said, it's basically a pick-em game. Technically, with that 3-point spread, it's actually Vegas is saying, Syracuse is a 1-point favorite, but we got to do this. So I'm going to plus we got to get on the opposite side at some point, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm against you on that one. Actually, I'm gonna flip it, but I think that thing will go all the way down to the wire. And then there's a variety of either, games flying under the radar that will just be good and fun to watch that we'll talk about, but also some of these spreads that kind of stand out to me, I'll start to mention too, and we'll just kind of work our way through it. Vandy and Purdue, at home at Purdue. Vandy's they're kind of sneaky. 7-point favorite there. I bring it up just because Purdue lost, and I kind of going to piggyback off some stuff here. You mentioned Nebraska and Colorado. Nebraska's 3.5-point favorite. Colorado's definitely not a pushover. It's kind of an old school Big 12, Big 8 rivalry, I guess you could say. Where was another one here? Oh, here we go. UCLA has yet to be able to put up some points just yet under the point machine. San Diego State generally can run the ball. They're pretty solid. They are a dog, 7.5 points. That one at least piques my interest a little bit. But where in the hell? Why am it just reloaded on me. Oh, here we go. Here we go, Marshall. Tennessee at home, 3.5-point favorite at home to BYU, who gave Utah a pretty good game. I don't care what the scoreboard said.
Yeah, man, if you're Tennessee, you really got to be hoping to win that game. You do not want to start out 0-2 at home. That would be a pretty tough way for the Vols to start their season. But, pretty much I think for the past 3 years on this show, you've always pretty much given out BYU for a pick because they're normally never an elite program, but they normally always make games close. But
always tight.
I'll take
always
Tennessee. I
game.
think they just find a way to get it done at home, hopefully. Because if you start off 0-2, then it's like, oh, crap. And I see that Florida State's playing Louisiana Monroe, who was the team last year they had to schedule for that makeup game to make a bowl game.
That's
so
right. That's right.
How funny would it be if Florida State loses to Monroe again, I mean, they were kind of your sympathy, like little brother beat you up team.
Yeah.
If they lose to them, Willie Taggart might be back in the ball. That could be brutal. that would be truly something very funny if that did happen to occur. But yeah, that BYU Tennessee, that game's actually on ESPN. So that should be that'll be a fun competitive game. My boy Lane Kiffin has to find a way to slow down UCF, who just went off week 1. Florida Atlantic is a 10-point underdog at home. That actually should be a pretty fun game. I know I'm talking about my boy there, but UCF obviously is always going to try to score.
Who's their quarterback again? Who did they get? They got a transfer. UCF.
For who?
UCF, didn't they get a transfer?
Well,
because
their
guy's hurt?
Yeah, and I thought the next guy got hurt too, but let me see who their quarterback is.
I can check it really quick. I got it right.
Oh, Wimbush.
There it is, Wimbush. I knew we knew him from Notre Dame. He's been around for a while. He's on his 9th year of eligibility.
Yeah, they were up 43-0 in the first half against FAMU. So, Florida, the UCF team is going to always score a bunch of points. So that'd be a decently fun game to watch. Again, as we mentioned, the top 2 games are the LSU, Texas, and A&M, Clemson, which are going to be the main watch. And hopefully those games turn out to be good games, but you never know. Besides that, I do think from a point spread perspective, I was listening or watching a show on ESPN. They had a number guy, as we've talked about, Chris. This guy thought that Cincinnati should be about a 10-point underdog against Ohio State, and they're actually a 16-point underdog. So if you believe in the sabermetrics and the numbers, one of those computer simulated deals has Cincinnati. They thought they should be about 10 in their favor. They're a 16-point dog. I would not maybe be going against Ohio State at home, but if you're in the number crunching game, we'll see. Army is going to Michigan. I thought Army was supposed to have a really good year this year, so I bet them against Rice, who last year was one of the worst teams in football.
Right.
Army did win by 7. They were favored by 23, so that was a little off. But and I think it was last year against Oklahoma. You just never quite know about those option teams. Obviously, I think Michigan's defense, Chris, is probably going to kill the option, you would assume. But Army's a pretty good squad. Maybe they came out flat against Rice, but that could maybe be an entertaining game. It seems like every year, whether it's Army or one of those academies, normally finds a way to make a game difficult for people just due to the way they play. And I see right under that game, your Rutgers Scarlet Knights, your hot boys, are walking into Kinnick Stadium. Now, Chris, the game is not at night. If it was at night, I'd say we're done. But it's 11 a.m. kickoff, so there's a minor chance Rutgers could become 2-0.
Well,
if that was
not
a 6:30,
so they always got to beat ranked teams in Iowa.
You're right. It needs to be Kinnick underdog by 4 points tonight. That's a guaranteed win for Iowa. I can't wait for one of those games this year to watch and bet, just because Iowa night's special. But our hot Rutgers Knights, it's almost a damn guarantee. Our Rutgers Knights are walking to Iowa.
I was going to bring up that Army too. I was going to bring up that Army game. I look at it and I thought, man, but I didn't bring it up because they look so damn. Well, hopefully it was just flat, because they did look like shit, dude. I was like, wow. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously they don't have a discipline problem, right? It's the Army.
No.
For Christ's sake.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That one kind of stuck out to me a little bit there. Another one I wanted to talk about real quick was, 2 of them. UNC, North Carolina got their first win with, what's his name, Mac back. The Mac is back in UNC. He was dancing after the game and all that good stuff. You got to love when those old coaches, shake a little hip on it, cut a rug, whatever you want to talk about. 5.5 points at home. They were just 9.5 point underdogs at home at South Carolina, and they beat them. Miami's still going to try to find itself offensively. It's been trying to find it for a while. That's not just a gimme that Miami's going to win that game. I hope they do, but I know the squad, and it's like, interesting. And then 3-point favorite, the Gophers on the road at Fresno, meaning, it's about 6 points on, if it was neutral ground or whatever. 3-point favorite, Fresno. Now, they don't have the squad they had last year. You are correct on offense. Man, I'll tell you what, though, that the game came down to Antoine Winfield Jr. getting beat on a play, but then making up for it like a good secondary player does and snatching an interception in the end zone, which would have tied the game. And then last week, I should say, coming out, I'm not going to say they came out super flat, but they just didn't play up to par, did the Gophers. The defensive line for the Gophers kind of makes me afraid. And Fresno turned over the ball and did some really random stuff. That was a random game for a second, but I liked how it looked like USC was going to run away with it. But they just kept in the game. And I'm assuming they're going to do the same. Any thoughts on those games or any other games before we get to the crafty pick of the week and shut this puppy down here?
Hopefully my USC boys beat up Fresno enough to where your Gophers can have a victory as well. And as you mentioned, hopefully for the Gophers, you open a little more in the playbook up. You didn't want to show much against South Dakota. That makes complete sense. And now they got to go down to Oklahoma. That's a hell of a start. Minnesota and Oklahoma. Good luck against Jalen Hurd. He looked pretty decent.
My God.
So, yeah, I think hopefully the Gophers get the victory there. And, yes, I hope your boys start out 2-0 because the rest of my squads are looking a little scary, my friend.
Yeah. Hold on real quick. Real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Real quick. Just to bring that up, Jalen Hurd, his debut at Ohio State. And we know this freaking transfer portal for Ohio State has just been money. For Oklahoma has been money. Although they had a transfer portal that did pretty good for them too. 20 of 23, 332 yards passing, 176 yards rushing, career high, and 6 TDs. Hurts and Menzel are the only player in the last 15 years to have 300 yards passing and 150 yards rushing in a game. Marquise Tuisapopo from Washington had this type of a game back in 1990. Holy Hurts, dude. Like, wow. Welcome to the club, buddy. I think you're fitting in at Oklahoma pretty well. Jeez. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to bring out that stat. Man almighty. It's just plug and play. Plug and play at Oklahoma, man.
Yeah, and he's got to have such a chip on the shoulder. And not that it was really even a dick move, but, I mean, he was your quarterback. But you got to have that as an athlete. Like, literally, I got kicked out of my spot despite being 26-2. I got something to prove, and obviously Tua turned out to be the right choice. But, too. Yeah, that's got to be something where he's like, all right, F this, I need to prove Saban wrong, or some type of chip on the shoulder. And he could easily maybe be playing against Saban. It's quite possible. You never know down the road. But, he looked very good. And, and I guess last one for them, they brought in the DC from Washington State, that Grinch guy, who actually had turned them around and a couple other teams. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, you got to be a little optimistic that you have a DC that has made massive strides with a bunch of teams. Because Oklahoma, Chris, does not need an LSU-type defense. They need a defense that's like in the
middle of the pack.
The 50s or the 60s, yeah. Yep. If you can get down from the 90s and be like a 50 to 60s ranked defense, you're going to be really a national title contender. They've done it almost with stud quarterbacks and nothing. Imagine if they can become middle, like, look out. Then we're really getting scared. That's something to be reckoned about because it looks like Jalen Hurts is not going to have any trouble moving the ball around. So that Grinch from Washington State, good DC, that could be a huge piece for Oklahoma. Because a couple of those games last year against Texas, like, you can't be giving up 54 points in a game and just looking hideous. But anyways,
it's just wide open dudes too. You know, it's just like Jesus. Like, is anybody out there? Like, it's really bad.
Yeah. So they showed minor progress. Obviously, you played Houston. They got that Jarrett King, who's actually a really good quarterback. But they looked better. I remember the announcer saying, like, okay, progress in the right direction for Oklahoma. Can they build off of that? For the crafty pick of the week, I did not want to go big point spread again. So this is a little bit of a first on the show, but I'm actually going to go to your best friend, the good old BPI. All right, so we have a Kennesaw State team who is FCS.
What did you just say? What did you call it?
The BPI, whatever the hell that thing's called.
No, the other thing. You said the what state?
Kennesaw State.
Oh my God.
They are an FCS team who did beat Jacksonville State, who was playing for the title. So Jacksonville State's a legit FCS program. Kennesaw State upset them. Kennesaw State travels to Kent State in Kent, Ohio. They're going to Dick's Stadium. Repeat, DIX. Dick's Stadium. I know we're little kids. I can't help it. But we normally always
that the opposite line, or the opposite stats is the funniest thing, or the defense. Okay, I saw it. It took me forever to find it. Okay, I got it. Okay.
It's an 11 a.m. kickoff. So obviously Kennesaw State's riding high. Kent State's 0-1. I don't believe they've probably played each other too much. For the best I can recollect. Again, last year Kennesaw State made the FCS playoffs. They lost to SDSU. I think they lost like the semifinal, or they lost in the quarterfinals. So legit contender. Your matchup predictor's got a stat for you, so you're gonna have to turn to that page. Kent State lost to Herm Edwards, so take it away. Kent State, Kennesaw State, Dick Stadium, 11 a.m. kickoff. Tickets are going as low as $25. You can walk in almost for free. What does your gut say for the second week pick of this beautiful matchup?
The Kent State Golden Flashes. I mean, that sounds damn near perverted. Golden shower? Like Golden Flashes? What the hell kind of shit are we talking about here? In the Owls. I mean, what the hell is it? What is that? What is a Golden Flash? I'm right. I'm gonna Google this shit. What the hell is a Golden Flash? The Golden Flash. What the hell is that? All right. What's a Golden Flash? It's just a damn. It's there. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's just their. It says. There's when I go there, it just says, yeah, it's their guy. Okay, so what's that mean though? What's a Golden Flash? I'm gonna stop. Oh my God, I didn't even mean to do it. Oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't read this. Oh wow. All right, so who's ever listened to the show, just Google that. I'm not gonna say what that is, but wow, dude, you guys didn't do some research or something. Oh my God, I had no clue it meant that. Okay, so what's bullshit is the Kennesaws, they don't have any passing stats or rushing stats or stats I can just destroy. So that kind of sucks. Dick Stadium, though, like you said, $25 at Vivid Seats. Get them while they're hot. You know that they're not. I got to go Kent State, man. I got to go Kent State. Although that South Dakota State thing does mess with me. 27-17 in the freaking quarters. Man. And I mean Buffalo, Toledo, EMU. Oh, that was a close one though. Eastern Michigan even beat Kent State. Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna go Kent State. And is there a spread? There's no spread. We just got to predict.
I might have a backdoor look for this spread. Give me one more minute.
Hey, we already said that we're not going to talk about what the golden flashes. You're talking about backdoor stuff. Hold the phone, dude. Jesus. Trying to get us freaking canceled already. I can't believe that I Googled gold flash and go under Urban Dictionary. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Whoops. Hey, more power to you. Anybody want to do anything to each other? Do whatever you're going to do. Just make sure it's of age and make sure it's consent. Can you get to the stat? I'm out of words, and I'm going to get us canceled. I really need you to come through here. You have a stat. It's not even on the book.
Well, my bookie, they always have the FCS line. So I was hoping they would have the line just simply due to the fact that Kennesaw is an FCS team. But it appears they only have FCS versus FCS matchups.
Oh,
so
they can't do the cross rival, huh?
Yeah, they can't do the crossroads. Your predictors.
Marcia, you there? You just dropped. Maybe I dropped. Marcia, you there? All right, Marshall dropped. I'm gonna get. Oh, he can't call back in. So we're gonna shut it down. We will be back to talk all about how these this gambling advice went, how our predictions went, how it all broke down. I'm really interested to see if A&M can sneak under that 17.5, man, on Clemson. I know Clemson is a juggernaut. We get it, but there's just something that makes me go, yeah, dude, I think Jimbo can get it underneath there. Anyway, I don't know what happened. It dropped. It is what it is, but he can't call in because it's past the live stream. So we're going to get out of here. The boys are gone. We'll be back next week for the College Ball Show. Peace out.